Your MSP might not have a hiring problem. It might have an onboarding problem. Because a new technician can be smart, motivated, and technically capable, and still become a risk if the business throws them into a live customer environment without a clear path. Picture this. It is the first week. A ticket comes in from a client. Something looks simple. A firewall change, Microsoft 365 permission, backup check, an alert and the RMM. The technician wants to help. They do not want to bother the senior engineer again. So they make the best guess. Maybe it works, but maybe it doesn't. Maybe a firewall rule is changed in the wrong place. Maybe a mailbox permission is granted too broadly. Maybe a defender alert is dismissed because it looks like noise. Maybe a backup warning is misunderstood and nobody realizes it until recovery is actually needed. That is the hidden cost of rush onboarding. The mistake is not just a mistake, it is the escalation afterwards. The senior technician pulled away from any other work, the client asking why something broke, the hours spent investigating, the internal stress, the loss of confidence, and the feeling that the new hire is not ready. When the real problem is that a MSP never gave them a safe path to become ready. This is where MSPs need to be honest. Learning by doing sounds good, but in an MSP, learning by doing often means learning inside a live customer environment. That is completely different. If a new technician is practicing on a real client, the client is carrying part of your training risk. That is not scalable operation model. That does not mean new technicians should be protected from real work forever. They need tickets, real clients, real context and real responsibility. But they should not be forced to improvise before the MSP has given them the basics. Clear checklists, standard playbooks and safe practice environments and a way to ask questions without feeling they are slowing everyone down. Good onboarding is not about being nice. It is about service quality. It protects the clients, it protects the technician, it protects the senior team. And yes, it protects margin. Because every avoidable mistake has a cost. Sometimes that cost is obvious, like downtime or emergency work, but often it is quieter. A ticket gets reopened because the first response missed a step. A senior engineer explains something that should have been documented. A client starts doubting the consistency of the service. A new technician loses confidence because they were expected to know things nobody ever taught them. That is expensive. And it is preventable. The first thing MSPs need is a standard path, not a vague, shadow someone for a while plan. A real plan. In the first days, a technician should understand how the MSP actually works, how tickets are triaged, how escalation happens, what good documentation looks like, when client systems are sensitive, which changes require approval, which tasks are safe for first-level support, and which one should never be guessed. Because without a structure, every new technician builds their own version of the job. One person handles onboarding one way, another handles backup alerts differently. Someone else has their own method for Microsoft 365 changes. Over time, the MSP does not have a service model. It has personal habits that might work with 5 people. It will break when you scale. The second thing MSP need is a practice without risk. A sandbox environment should not be a luxury. It should be part of how technicians learn. If someone needs to understand Microsoft 365 permissions, defender policies, conditional access, RMM automation, firewall rules, backup restores, or endpoint deployment, they should be able to practice those things somewhere that cannot hurt a client. A sandbox lets people make mistakes before the mistakes matter. They can break a configuration, see what happens, fix it, and understand the consequences. They can test a script before it touches production. They can walk through a restore process before a real outage. That changes the whole culture. New technicians become more confident because they have already seen the scenarios. Senior technicians become less overloaded because they are not answering the same basic questions forever and again and again and again. and clients get more consistent experience because the MSP is not using their environment as a testing ground. No pilot learns with passengers on board. No surgeon starts with the hardest to operation on day one. So why would an MSP let a new technician learn official customer systems by guessing its production? The third piece is repetition. And I know, repetition sounds boring. But in an MSP, repetition is how quality becomes normal. The goal is to make the basics automatic, so their brain is free for the work that can actually require judgment. If every technician knows the same onboarding checklist, the same escalation path, the same backup validation steps, and the same Microsoft 365 baseline, the team can move faster without becoming careless. That is the difference between chaos and maturity. Standardization does not remove skill. It creates a floor below which service quality should not fall. And that matters because MSPs do not operate in a static world. Tools change, threats change, client environments change. Microsoft changes something. A vendor changes an interface. New security expectation appears. That is why onboarding cannot be a one-time event. Training has to come back in small, practical refreshers. Not a massive annual workshop nobody can remember, but a focused session. One on backup recovery, one on Microsoft 365 baseline, one on ticket notes, one on escalation quality, one on common security mistakes, one on using automation safely. Small, practical, repeated. That is how knowledge sticks. And it sends an important message to the team. We do not expect you to magically know everything. We expect you to learn through a system. Because rushed onboarding does not only hurt clients, it burns out the existing team, senior technicians because the safety net for everything. They review unclear tickets, fix avoidable mistakes, explain the same process again and again and again, and get pulled into work that should not require them. Eventually, they stop improving the business because they are too busy rescuing it. That is the cause many MSPs do not see. A weak onboarding process does not just slow down new things, it traps your best people. A strong onboarding process does the opposite. It turns the knowledge of your best people into checklists, playbooks, examples, sandbox exercises, and standards the whole team can use. This is how an MSP scales, not by hoping every new technician becomes a hero or a god, but by building an environment where ordinary work can be done consistently, safely, and confidentially. This is also where MSP leaders should look at onboarding as a commercial issue. Better onboarding means fewer avoidable escalations, fewer mistakes in live environments, faster round-ups on the new hires, less pressure on senior engineers, and a better client experience. That's not HR. That is operations. That is margin. So the question should not be how fast can the technician start closing tickets. The better question is, what do they need to understand? Because we let them affect a real customer environment. Because the fastest way to get someone into production is not always the cheapest way. Rushed onboardings feel efficient until it becomes expensive. Structured onboarding feels slower and it prevents the same problems from happening again and again. That is the real lesson. Your MSP does not become stronger because every technician figures it out alone. It becomes stronger when the business captures what good looks like and teaches it consistently. This is how technicians become confident. This is how senior technicians get their time back. This is how clients get predictable services. And that is how MSP grows without turning every new hire into a risk. If you are interested in topics like this is exactly what we talk about at MSP Global, Europe's only international managed service provider event. And I would love to hear your view in the comments. Where does rush onboarding hurt MSPs the most? Is it ticket quality, documentation, security, customer trust, or senior technician burnout? Let me know.